All right. We're back. It's Wednesday evening. We're a half an hour early, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And it's I actually checked, it's episode 39 if we count all of the episodes we did before we took our break.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I mean, you know what they say, like it's like a survivorship game, right? At this point.
Yeah.
If you can keep making episodes.
Yep. I often say that same thing about IT, right? It's just it's battle of wills. It's who can stay at it longest will win. Because it's just, well, it's a battle of wills. Other interesting news, and I missed most of it on the weekend. Did you happen to see Minecraft Live at all?
No, I missed this. Was there anything? Okay, so what happened?
Well, I don't exactly know, but I'm getting updates from my nephew. He was here, and we're like, we're going to watch Minecraft Live tomorrow. And then
fun.
About 2 hours after it started, we're like, oh, oops. We were playing Minecraft and forgot. But he did send me a little video. There is a new biome available or coming. I don't know if it's released yet or not. It's a sulfur biome or something.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
New bricks, like new blocks.
Nether or overworld?
I couldn't quite tell in the little video clip that he sent me whether it was Nether or overworld. But it's got new blocks. It's got a new, almost looks like a slime, but it's a sulfur cube. And you can give it things to change its color and stuff. It's like a friendly mob. And it also has sulfur pools or something. And if you go in them, you get the nausea effect.
Oh, okay.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we might have to, I meant to check, like, is it out already? Do I just need to run the latest version or is it coming soon? So I might have to do some updates and just play vanilla and see if I can find one.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to spin up a vanilla world and check this out if it's available.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of neat. That's all I saw because he shared a link with me. And I meant to go and look and then got busy and kind of forgot.
Understandable.
Yeah. Claude Code is keeping me up very late at night and I'm still slightly sleep deprived. So if it's not in my to-do list, it tends to get overlooked right now because I'm a little ragged at this point. Too many
captured by other projects. Yeah.
Too many personal projects on the go. Oh my God.
Yeah.
No
kidding.
Right. There's a good article we'll talk about later on, but I totally see where the person's point of view, like my brain is just like, oh, it would be cool if you could do this. And I'm literally going through, we've talked about this before, right? This idea of personalized software. And I know when I think about this logically, it doesn't generate revenue for the business or anything like that. But like I look at the costs of some of the SaaS tools that I have and I use like this much of it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could probably explain that to Claude or Hero or Gemini and like insert tool of choice, right? A little bit of brainstorming back and forth and you could probably bang it out and it might cost like $2 a month or something. Right? And running it on AWS, right? Keeping it all on AWS. But yeah, I'm going to make a note here. I have a OpenBrain update for you regarding costs. Remember we talked about, if you turn off, what is it, Aurora and keep it, what do they call it? ACUs, right? It's scale to zero and when it's not in use and then turn it back on. I have some interesting insight in that, which I'll share as we get into the Gen AI. And I thought, put you on the spot. We won't do it this week.
Okay.
I think though we should somewhere maybe between AWS news and Gen AI news, if you're willing to share some sort of like high level personal project updates, because I can't stop, man. I
know exactly what you mean.
It's a problem at this point. I just what I've done is I've substituted BF6 addiction for a Claude Max subscription addiction that now I'm like, I paid for it, I must use it. And it's like
earn all these tokens.
Yeah. It's gotten to the point where it's kind of like, do you maybe want to take a break? And I'm like, Are you trying to get rid of me? Like, screw off. We got work to do. Let's go. And so okay. I think maybe we'll talk about it a little bit, maybe between now and next week, and just do like a quick personal project update, because I think it might be kind of cool.
Yeah, awesome. I think that's a great idea for an episode. I'm experiencing the exact same thing, and I have been since January, basically. Like, the friction being at zero to start stuff. You're gated by, like, it's gonna be really interesting. You're gonna have to develop, like, I gotta figure out how to actually decide what's worth pursuing now, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
even more than before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's no different than, remember when, and I'm not saying you did this, but I for sure did this, just buying domain names, because you're like, I have an idea for a project. And then like 10 years later, you've spent $2,000 on a domain name that you have never used, right?
Yeah.
Me and my buddy Frank, oh man, we laughed. We had so many stupid domain names. And once we went through our lists, I'm like, oh my God, man. If I do the math on this, the money that I'm just spending on domain names that I know realistically I will never use, it's crazy. And I agree with you. I'm sort of, right now for me, it's a pure math equation. I'm like, why am I paying $50 a month? Let's go figure out, like, what do I actually use in this product? And could I just, I know it's not going to be as polished, but could I just use Claude or something else to build a personalized version of that piece of software? And if I could run it on my own infrastructure for a fraction of the cost, then number one, I'm learning something, because I am forcing myself to read all the code, go through it, read issues, deal with merge requests, kind of all that stuff still. So in my mind, I'm learning something from it, but I'm also saving some cash, I guess, in the end, in theory.
Potentially. It depends how it works out, right? Like how much time you're spending on it.
What I've noticed, and I know we haven't gotten it. This is the largest sort of, or the longest opening segment we've had, but I've noticed that if the calculations are correct, SaaS in general has the best profit margins I've ever seen. Yeah. Like, just pure infrastructure. I know dealing with people and support and stuff like that, that's hard to sort of actually, estimate what the costs are of that. But if you just take it on a pure hardware thing, and I know people will say, well, that's not a true equation, but I did it anyways. And if you look at it, I was like, holy crap. Like, this is $1 a month on AWS, and I'm paying like 30 to 40 US a month
for access to, say, like Jira or something, right?
Yeah. And I'm the type of user that really isn't ever opening tickets or anything like that. So it's pure profit, right?
You're essentially spending that for a Kanban board, basically, right? At that point.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, they have a fine Kanban board, right? Yeah. But like, it's really interesting. Like, the SaaS space, these companies operate at like 60 to 80% gross margins, right? Like internal. And yet, I mean, the meta has been to lose money, burn money to grow for these companies.
Yeah.
So you don't tend to necessarily notice. But yeah, I mean, there's a reason they all tanked kind of pretty so hard with that on that Citrini article, right? When that came out with the doomerism take.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think, man, I was talking to somebody again, what is it? It's Wednesday. So it was this week. And we were talking about this idea of personalized software. And as these tools get better and better, like, the argument right now, I think, would be, well, you still need to kind of know what you need to know, right? Like, because it can, bullshit baffles brains. So if it tells me something and I don't know what the hell it's talking about, I take its word for it. But if you have sort of that domain expertise and you can call it on its bullshit and say, wait a second, are you sure about that? Doesn't seem right. Oh yeah. Ooh, yeah, you're absolutely right. Let's go and do this again. But as these tools get better, man, like, even mom and pop shops and stuff, you need a little piece of software. Do you maybe just, hack it together over a weekend with your favorite Gen AI tool? And Is it perfect? No, but does it do what you need it to do? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and do you have the opportunity to identify edge cases that like a contractor might not earlier, right? You know the ins and outs.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I'm like a small consulting shop building CRUD apps, I'm really worried right now.
Man.
I don't want to be doing that. Or maybe I'm happy to just do like 100 times more work. Those, if I can get the contracts, right? But
Yeah.
are you going to be able to get the contracts? I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's tough, right? Because if it's like you and I have talked about before, that's still a person that you're paying versus even if you go Claude Max, right? Like it's I think it's like $140 Canadian a month. Yeah. So do the math on that. Let's make it easy and say $150 a month. What's that? $1,800 a year? If I'm doing my math correctly. And that's tough to compete against, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've totally. What's that?
It's the cost of your attention and time is the counterweight, right?
Yeah. But these things, man, like I can't stop. Like I'm waking up. I chuckled when I read this article. I'm waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta write this down. Like this is good. I've got a Kanban board. Fully functioning Kanban board. It's got MCPs. It talks to my agents. It does everything. And I'm just like, okay, I'm done. I don't need Jira anymore. And I'm lying in bed and I'm like, oh man, you should be sleeping. And instead I'm talking to OpenBrain on my phone going, write this down because we need to talk about this later. And it's insane, man. It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. All right, enough shenanigans. Let's talk about AWS news. There's 3 or 4 interesting articles. The first one is, we've talked about this before, the AWS MCP server, still in preview. And I think maybe we talked about it at the beginning of the year. And they've added a new option feature, I don't know what I want to call it, where it's now publishing metric data to help you understand how it's actually being used. So I wrote down here just some of the like invocation, success, error, throttling. So pretty classic AWS, right? Let's go build this tool. Yeah. We'll make it available. Probably got customer feedback that said, well, this is cool, but it would be nice to see, like, are people actually using it? So they just surface those metrics quick and easy. I'm saying quick and easy. They probably used Kiro to write it, right? That
probably,
unless it replaced the service, but just surface the metrics and dump them into CloudWatch. Pretty slick, actually. Yeah.
Makes sense. I mean, you need some kind of logging on this, right? Like, I'm sure the API calls will go through CloudTrail, right? If you're going through the MCP server,
I would think so.
End of the day, it's got to be making API calls to AWS, so it has to be going through there. But I guess this is to show and maybe get a separate log of any changes that agents may have made in the system that you can audit specifically. So you could, I guess you could scan that for like destructive changes if you wanted.
I think, just this idea, I know we call it observability now, but like just monitoring of these things in general is important.
Yeah.
And especially the themes that we've talked about over the last little while, right? As we're letting AI agents do more and more stuff, right? As everybody gains confidence, as they become trustworthy isn't the right words, but you know what I mean? Like you can trust it in that environment to do something on your behalf. Yeah. You would want to make sure that you do have the observability, the metrics, whatever you want to call it, to understand what the hell these things are doing.
As they get more reliable, right?
Yeah.
Will you ever hit 100%? Maybe effectively you will.
Yeah.
But, it's still a non-deterministic system, sorry. And you need that. There's still a lot of work to be done to get them to that spot.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. But so is a person, right?
Yeah.
Non-deterministic. Somebody gives us the same task. I'm going to do it one way. You're going to do it a different way. Not necessarily either way wrong. And, we're easily distracted and make errors too. I'm saying we, I just mean humans, right? Not particularly you or I don't know about you, but I'm never distracted. So, yeah, of course not. But you see what I mean?
Time.
Oh yeah, laser focus, right? The other interesting part of this was we had talked about the agent SOPs, standard operating procedures that they had started to introduce, and it's also included somehow into this. There's new features or functionalities that allow you to interact with it in more natural language too. I haven't played with it because that scares me a little bit, those just, tasking it with stuff. But I do think I need, kind of like what we talked about last week, maybe the week before, I just need an account that there's nothing in it. And if it does go wrong, okay, right? But
there's no consequences.
There's no consequences. Like some of these frontier agents that we've talked about, they keep kind of showing up in my, you got to go figure out the DevOps agent or the security agent. And now this new MCP and the agent SOPs, I would be reluctant even to put them in my little personal accounts just in case something were to go wrong. But I really do think there'd be some value in standing up for lack of a better word, a burner account and just trying them.
Yeah, if you just put a restrictive budget on that and keep the permissions down so you're not spinning up like a high intensity compute service or like a huge batch job or something by accident.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty cool. So, we talked about MCPs last week with David. This is another example again of just how MCPs keep expanding. I actually got a warning from Kiro IDE, which I very rarely use, that I have too many MCPs and it's going to slow down. I'm like, come on.
Okay. Yeah, interesting.
Never seen it before.
They're tracking the amount of context that's getting flooded, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. Makes sense, right? The other interesting thing to go back to the intro here that I thought about this one, and I think this is the power of these agents. So this was this came out, and I don't know when it came out. It was earlier in the week, I think. And I'm reading it, and I'm like, I need observability for OpenBrain. Like, what is it actually doing? So I gave Claude the article, and the irony is Claude cannot scrape AWS news sites. It seems to, it thinks it's being blocked, right? Yeah. So I had to copy and paste it, dumped it in, said, here it is. And I'm like, okay, I want something like this for OpenBrain. And it built a dashboard, coded it up for me, put it in CDK, deployed it. And now I've surfaced metrics on how OpenBrain's being used, who's using it, like which agents are using it. Is it me? Is it an MCP? It's pretty slick, and it did it in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's not a complicated task, right? It's not like a conceptually difficult thing to build, right? You're making a series of API calls to essentially CloudTrail probably.
Yeah.
And then you need to put those in a nice looking graph or plot, right?
Yeah. So
I
think a lot of these were like built-in CloudWatch metrics. I kind of looked through it when it built it. And the hard part I find about CloudWatch is knowing where the hell the metrics are. Like, cause you've got 20 services running your account. They each have 20, 30 metrics. And you're like, you're going to spend the next week reading all the documentation, trying to figure out which ones are relevant. And I'm like, this is my goal. I need to understand how this is being used. And it's like, okay, these are the metrics that I think you should use, at least for now. Let's try it and see what it looks like. And it put it into the CDK project and done in 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Unbelievable.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right. Unbelievable. Okay, what else do we have? Another interesting one that kind of follows up our very brief discussion last week with David. I kind of threw in near the end that Kiro's supporting additional models now, right? And it's got Minimax, it's got DeepSeek, it's got
GLM 5, I think.
Well, that's Bedrock, but Kiro has, what's the other one that we talk about? Quen? I think those are the three that it's supporting. And then it came out this week that Bedrock now is supporting GLM 5 and Minimax 2.5.
Cool. So, what is it? About a month maybe after those models were released? A month or two?
Yep.
So they're kind of, I guess that's about the lead time it takes to get them into the system and get them deployed and tested. And yeah, makes sense.
Makes sense, right? And I think this is an AWS play again, right? Like it's always been sort of the way, in my opinion, the way they've approached Gen AI in general is, hey, we're going to have all the models. And if you want to use these models, this is the platform to build them on. And it seemed for a while they kind of got, they've got their own models and stuff, right? Like the Nova models and all those kinds of guys. And then they got Claude and that. They've got this agreement with OpenAI, but I haven't seen those models yet. I don't think you can get those models in Bedrock. And now they're starting to bring in these open weight ones, right? It's just classic AWS in the sense that, hey, we have all the tools. We're still the platform with all the primitives. You come here and build whatever you want, and we're going to be able to support it for you.
Diversification, right? Like they're just going wide in the, because who knows where this is all going to end up, right?
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? What else? I guess there's really not much more to say about having these models in Bedrock. I might tool around a little bit with some of the things I've been building because like OpenBrain and those guys, they're using, right now I'm using Claude Haiku to do some summarization and stuff like that. And I kind of wonder, maybe I could sort of have a couple model options there and test them out against each other and see what does some nicer summarization for the sort of weekly summaries that I'm getting and stuff. Thought it might be kind of cool.
Yeah, performance for the cost too. Like you can see it, like some of these are going to be cheaper than the Claude models, almost guaranteed, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, right? Even if you look in, and I almost said Claude, if you look in Kiro and you take it off auto mode and you get the list of models that are available, like Claude Opus is 2.2 times your credits usage.
Yeah.
Like I think Minimax was like 0.25. So right tool.
Yeah, they're ridiculously cheap for the job, right?
Yeah. This is, again, I'm in AWS mode tonight. Use the right tool for the right job. So now you've got these options. Why are you chewing through all of your credits? Just, I'm not saying that auto mode will always be Opus 4.6, but if you've got something that you could get away with these open weighted models, I can't remember what DeepSeek was, but I'm pretty sure Minimax was like 0.25 of your credits. It was insanely cheap, right? Yeah. Right. Makes a lot of sense. What else do we have on the AWS front? You shared a really cool one, S3 account regional namespaces for general purpose buckets. Walk us through it.
Yeah. So this is awesome. I mean, if you've ever worked with S3, you may have stumbled into the fun realization that it's a global service. And DNS names for the buckets have to be unique or had to be unique globally before this, right?
Yeah.
And you could run into issues where if you created a bucket and then you tore it down, you would have to wait for DNS to update before you could spin up a copy of that bucket with the same name, for example. So there's all kinds of fun gotchas there. But now what you can do is you can spin up a bucket in a namespace that's account and regional based. So tied to your AWS account and region. So you can have buckets, and the format is something like bucket name, account number, region name, and then some suffix, right? But you can have similarly named buckets more easily in your environments, which is a nice little...
Yeah, that is nice. Although I am kind of ticked off because they've taken my best demo in training classes. I always try to create a bucket called my bucket, just to basically say, hey, AWS names have to be globally unique, and they don't anymore. So now I have to get a new shtick. I've been using that for like 10 years. It was gold.
That's unfortunate.
Damn.
Well, I wonder if the old DNS is still there and it's like new buckets in the namespaces. I bet you they have to survive. You'll have to try it out, I guess.
Yeah, I have to try it out. I'm training. I'm doing a training class today or this week. Tomorrow, I'm gonna figure out some way to go into S3 and try to create a bucket just called bucket and see if it works. Do you have to do anything? Like, is this available already? Do you have to enable something in your account? Do you remember anything about the announcement?
I think it's just available.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and try it out in your environments.
I'm gonna try.
Another thing that's cool is you can set up SCPs to lock things down to the namespace.
Oh, nice. Yeah, very good. Hey, just to give you a heads up, your headset's getting a little wonky again.
Uh-oh. All right. Hold on. We're going to swap.
Swap?
Yep.
We need like some elevator music to play during technical difficulties. You probably didn't hear me, but I said we need some elevator music to play.
We do the technical side.
Yeah. Or like the music they played during Jeopardy, the final question, whatever that is. Dude, let me know when you're set.
Is this Steel's?
I can't hear you. Is it our end or your end? You're not muted on this end. Nothing still. Can't hear you.
How about now?
Oh, there we go. It's an end. All right, perfect. The beauty of post-processing, we'll just clean that right out. That's fantastic. Okay, I'm just going to adjust audio on my side because it's like when you changed your audio, my audio settings kind of went a little wonky. So just there we go. I think we're good. I'm going to pull this over here so I can just watch it. I know I'm not supposed to change audio levels during the recording, but I have found that sometimes it just, I don't know what it is. It gets a little weird. Yeah. Okay. All right, so that's the AWS news that we decided to talk about for the week. Pretty interesting stuff, I think, right? Some quality of life stuff, some new technology, pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's change gears, talk a little bit about Gen AI. We'll start with OpenBrain and its costs. I am spending about anywhere from $1 to $2 a day on OpenBrain.
Okay.
And it is, I would say 80% of that cost is Aurora.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. And that's with turning it off. So I made a couple mistakes. When I first started, I didn't realize that Claude hadn't made the ACU set to 0. It made it 0.5.
Oh.
So for the first couple days, it was constantly running for the first couple days. And I noticed it because I was really interested in what the costs were actually going to be. And because you and I were talking about it, right? And you had said, oh, it'll be interesting to see what Aurora does. So I was watching it and I'm like, this doesn't seem right. Like it's too high for the amount of time that I'm using it. So I went over and I looked at the actual config and I'm like, oh, no. This is supposed to be 0, not 0.5. And I went back to Claude and, I got you're absolutely right. And I'm like, you owe me $10. No, I didn't say that, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah, come on, Claude. So it fixed that up. And then the price, the cost just plunk off a cliff. Right. The other thing, guess what I fixed it since. I shouldn't say fixed, but I got rid of it. I'll give you a little bit of the architecture and then you'll know what the answer to this question is. It's, even though I really don't need to do this, I needed a VPC because of Aurora, right? So when we were sort of brainstorming, Claude and I were brainstorming it out, I'm like, well, if we have a VPC, why don't we just put Lambda in the VPCs as well?
Sure.
Right? Well, a couple of those Lambdas need to make outbound connections, right? So guess what I needed? A NAT gateway.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, well, this is going to blow the budget. Like even if I break best practice and just have a single NAT gateway, that's going to cost me $35 a month for a NAT gateway. So do you know what I did?
Did you just put it in a public subnet?
No, I wasn't that bad. I have wanted to use this product for a long time. FCK NAT.
Oh, okay.
So my EC2 costs now are 40 cents a day.
Sweet.
Yeah,
all right.
It's
so you're just running them on a Nano, I guess.
Yeah, it's a T4G Nano. It's nowhere even close to being used enough that I would have to be any bigger than a Nano. And I went from $35 a month to let's say 50 cents a day.
Like
15 bucks maybe.
Okay.
Right.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think these costs could actually come down a little bit because, I've been going gangbusters on this thing, right? Like as much as I'm like, oh, Aurora will turn off when it's not in use. The only time it's not in use is like 2:00 in the morning because I have to go to bed, right? And so it's pretty much running all day. And I'm sure at some point, let's be honest, that the shine will wear off a little bit. Real life will get in the way, and I'll actually have to go and do something other than talk to Claude. And then I would suspect at that point, the OpenBrain usage will drop. Therefore, Aurora will be turned off more than it is right now.
Right.
But yeah, so not bad actually for a personal project, $30 a month.
That's not bad. I mean, for what you're getting out of it, right? Which is like your knowledge organization system, right? It's like paying a subscription to some kind of service to do that.
Yeah.
This is what I was worried about was going to be the cost of Postgres in AWS to do this kind of thing. So I've just been hosting it locally on Docker, right?
On Docker.
Good enough.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of feeling the friction now, and I kind of want to put it into the cloud. So I think I'll try your serverless Postgres architecture at least.
It's worth a shot, man. Like I'm writing up how I used to do those live coding sessions, and I would spend 2 hours just, writing code that nobody would ever watch. I'm not going to do that anymore. I haven't done it for a long time. And I was kind of battling with, should I start it again? I probably could have another hobby than that. But what I thought was I might turn these into a series of like, not programming videos like I used to do before, but just like walkthroughs of the solution. So I've got a reference diagram. I think I'm going to try to record something. So I'll share it with you when I'm happy with the reference diagram and show you what it looks like. I think it's going to come in $30-ish bucks this month. And I filtered out the EC2 other costs to take that out. And then I've just kind of extrapolated it because that was an error. And I think I couldn't really extrapolate the Aurora costs because there's no way. I guess I could have like taken those first couple days out of the cost explorer and then said, extrapolate it for the rest, but I don't know. Didn't think of that at the time. So, I think $30 a month probably.
That's not bad. That's like a fancy Minecraft server.
Yeah. Just you can't load any mods because it's got to be nice and lean. And this, I'm using it a lot. Like, I was talking about the metrics that I've surfaced through CloudWatch. Like I've created MCP servers all over the place and they all use OpenBrain. So when I look at the invocations, the sources of the invocations, it's like there was one day there was 7,000 invocations from MCP. And it's constantly going to it and trying to get context, right? So
I'd be curious to know like how many calls this thing is making regularly and how many queries you're running per day, right? On Aurora serverless. And that's going to be your cost, right? Like pay per usage.
Yeah. So it's pretty neat. So I'll pull it together and we can, like I said, we'll maybe do some personal project updates. That'd be pretty cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. My favorite article from this week is, I'm scrolling through the list. I have two favorites. OpenAI shutting down Sora, and Disney pulls out of their $1 billion investment.
Oh, Sora, we hardly knew ye.
Yeah.
I'm not too broken up about that.
No.
I gotta say.
I never quite understood it anyways. And I know they put in all sorts of controls to limit, the type of content you could create with it. But I had a couple friends that were like, oh, no, it still works.
No, you could do whatever you want with that. Yeah. It's a disaster.
Disaster. So it is no longer, and Disney has saved $1 billion by the sounds of it. Right. So a great example of massive hype that really, there's no way to commercialize that. And in my opinion, there'd be no way to commercialize it. And if you did try, you're probably just going to get your butt sued off because people are going to infringe. Right. So, yeah. So
this is like OpenAI's side quest sickness they had for a while there. They were doing all kinds of side projects and they weren't focusing on the code part like Anthropic was. So I think they're trying to catch up now. But
like their browser project for a while. Right. Which I don't know if did it ever go anywhere? Like,
no, it went nowhere. It's such a weird, there are things now like OpenClaw kind of does that for them, right?
Yeah.
So you can task an agent to do that. And then Anthropic has their Claude Cowork situation. So
yeah.
that's essentially that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of OpenClaw and sort of OpenAI, so this is old news now, but the creator of OpenClaw is now an OpenAI employee, so sort of acquire hire, right? That happened. I don't know if that happened this week, last week. I don't know. I think it's old. You're just making
3
me
weeks
think
ago?
of it. Is it that old?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it happened maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is kind of relevant. It's just like another iteration in, like, did you hear that OpenAI bought Astral recently?
That was my segue into Astral.
Gotcha.
Yeah. What were you going to say there about sort of the OpenClaw and Astral idea?
I was going to just comment that it's kind of interesting that Anthropic bought Bun for the Claude Code team, and now OpenAI bought essentially, well, they hired Peter Steinberg or Steinberg, right? But that is essentially, an acquisition of OpenClaw, and now they're buying the future of Python.
Yeah,
is what it feels like.
Yeah.
So that's just a really interesting thing that's happening. I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of take with the Astral thing. I don't really care about OpenClaw, to be honest. I'm over it. I know both of us were sort of struggling with what do we do? Do we mess around with this and try it? I don't know. I'm kind of happy with the things I've been building, and they do what I want. And I feel like I'm going to jinx myself, but it feels more secure. I'm not uncomfortable with what I've built because I know what it's doing. Is it perfect? Probably not, but it just doesn't make me as uncomfortable as that solution was. And you heard stories about people deleting all their emails or sending emails on their behalf, and I'm just like, oh man, it just gave me nightmare scenarios, right? So
you're not gonna send nasty emails to your friends or your family with OpenBrain, right?
No. Until it becomes sentient and then takes over.
Right.
Yeah.
Just don't give it your email and what's it going to do, right?
Yeah, I can't do much, right? So yeah, I don't know how I feel about Astral. I think, I like Astral UV, right? I know they make other stuff too, but for me in Python, it's the UV sort of manager end of things. I think it's kind of the same way I'd feel if like Meta bought it. You're just like, oh, come on. Leave the shit that I like to use alone. You don't have to own everything.
That's true. That's yeah.
All right.
I mean, in a way, you're kind of supporting that open source project by acquiring it and keeping it alive. Hopefully they do keep it alive and they don't just like shunt it off into some foundation and let it rot. Because like it's UV, it's TY and ruff are the specific tools, and those they're so good at what they do. It's like the ultimate Python stack, right, for linting and LSP use cases. So probably they're going to use the expertise from that team and kind of build it into Codex, I would imagine. But
I would think so, right? Like I don't see them becoming, doing anything with these tools. They want the brains behind the tools to work on other OpenAI projects. So yeah. But like you said, this is sort of the same playbook Anthropic did with Bun back in, was that November, December?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something
right.
Yeah. Time is moving so quickly. Everything's happening.
Yeah.
At such an increased rate.
Yeah. And the other thing is like, I can't wrap my head around the UV thing, and I don't know enough about Bun to really make a comment on that. The thing that I kind of stuck out in my head is these AI companies are just buying developer tools. Right. And I can kind of see it in the sense like, if you own the developer tools, then people who are used to using those tools might then become more willing to use your other tools, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like we've talked about this before, how you kind of get IDE lock-in over time. You just get so used to the ecosystem and you're like, no, I will never change from insert IDE, right? It's so perfect. I've got all the extensions, the right themes. It makes me feel happy when I turn it on. You know what I mean? Like people get crazy about their IDEs. And I'm speculating that maybe some of the thought process here is, if we get the developer community behind some of these things, maybe they're more willing to use our other products. I don't know.
Could be. I mean, if you can take these tools, right, and take the tool building expertise and use that to build the next best tool in the space for that use case, then, you're kind of winning by default, right? You are the best tool for that job, and that job with this acquisition would be writing Python code.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's pretty compelling.
Yeah. Speaking of Codex, just to sidetrack us here for a bit, man, I don't know if I'm using the right term, but the idea of sandboxes, right? That they have this isolated environment. It takes some getting used to. I'm trying to use Codex. You know how it's got the kind of the scheduler aspect of it? I've been trying to use Codex to scan my repos for these little projects. And essentially the prompt is, you should check all the commits you've seen in the last 24 hours. And I want your opinion on them for from security and just general bug fixes. And it does that really well, but I can't get it to communicate with my other tools. Like I can't get it to update context in OpenBrain. I can't get it to basically connect to the GitLab server, right? The old GitLab server that I still have running, because it's, for lack of a better term, it's sandboxed, right? And man, I haven't spent a lot of time because I have been enthralled with all these personal projects, but I definitely need to sit down and figure it out. The idea of these sort of isolated sandbox environments, interesting, but it again, it makes you have to rethink how you're going to use the tool if you're not used to operating in those sandboxed environments, because it's significantly different than Claude.
It does. You have to expose. Yeah, you have to really build tooling around how you expose that functionality to the system, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't, if it can't reach outside of that repo or that container you have it in, then obviously you're not going to be able to do the work you want to do. It's really tantalizing and easy to just let an agent loose on your system and build that way, right? So to get on like that happy path of not blowing yourself up is hard.
It takes work, right? It takes work to figure it out and give it the access that it needs. I don't think I have a big hurdle to overcome. It's just finding the time to sit down and say, okay, like, how do I actually make this do the 2-3 things that are important for the little projects that I'm working on? Really, like, I need it to create issues, and I need it to, what was the other thing I wanted it to do? Oh, write to OpenBrain so that the other agents have context on what it's seeing when it's running its scans. That's it.
Right.
So got to spend some time, figure it out. Speaking of crazy permissions, did you read about auto mode, Claude Code auto mode?
So I didn't see this. I did see the channels thing.
Yeah.
But this, I guess so just guessing, this is Anthropic's attempt to do an OpenClaw. Is that about right?
Well, okay, let me explain it to you and then you tell me. So Claude is generally pretty good with permissions, right? Like if you don't have a settings JSON file or something like that, every time you hit enter, it's like, can I run this? Can I do that? And you sit there and go, yes, yes, yes. Okay. Then you can run it in sort of YOLO mode, and you can say dangerously skip permissions when you start it. And it's pretty much do whatever it wants. So auto mode is kind of between those two extremes. So auto mode basically evaluates every command that it wants to run and sort of tries to separate them into what it considers to be risky and what it considers to be perfectly okay to run. And if it really thinks that something should be approved by you, the human, then it will still ask.
Right.
But otherwise, it's kind of like, okay, I think that's safe enough for me to run. I won't ask you. I'll just do it.
Okay. So they put like an observer step in there to
That's exactly
like remove RF/home.
That's exactly it, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I'm still not quite sure, right? If you think a couple weeks ago, we talked about the developer who used Claude to do some updates and it dropped the database.
Right.
And we've talked a lot over the last couple of weeks because I'm obsessed with this concept now of the 5 levels of AI and trying to get as close to level 5, right, dark factory as possible. It still gives me pause. Like I'm like, okay, you might not consider that to be risky, but I do. Right.
Yeah.
And if you're making those decisions, I can kind of see it to a point, but what if I disagree with that decision, but I've given you enough autonomy to do whatever you'd like and you've determined it's okay and you run something that I don't want you to run. Right. So
you need a dev machine. You need a VPS that you can run this on.
Yeah, I think so. And it goes back to the kind of the same thing, like we were talking about a burner account at the beginning. And if something were to go wrong, you're okay with it. I think this goes to the same thing we talked about the last couple of weeks. Backups are important, right? Having your project files in a Git repo is one thing, but then do you have that Git repo backed up somewhere else? Because if you think about that story we talked about, it deleted the snapshots too. So what if it decided and it had enough permissions to your Git repo that it didn't need that repo anymore? And
just nuke the repo. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're using the repo as your backup.
And you're thoroughly pooched.
Oh my God, that gives me nightmares, right? Like, yeah, if that GitLab server wasn't there, I might as well just retire. Like I'm done. Like, I'm gonna go find somewhere warm and play Battlefield or something. I'm not gonna worry about it anymore. So I think this is interesting. I don't think it's available everywhere yet. So they're kind of rolling it out, but you got auto mode to kind of land between. And then let's talk about channels. This I'm interested in, right? So this I think is their first attempt at responding to something like OpenClaw, where you're able to communicate through your chat tool of choice. I think it supports Telegram, Discord right now, maybe something else, where you can essentially text your Claude agent from your phone and have it execute against local files where Claude is actually running.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So they've got some kind of bot connectivity back to Claude. I mean, those webhooks are easy to set up, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this kind of goes back to what we've talked about like the hard part about all this is getting the tooling around the model to actually do the work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's another layer.
Yeah. And we talked last week about scaffolding. So can I ask you just to define that? Because sometimes it confuses me. Like, is tooling scaffolding or is scaffolding something different?
I think so. I think scaffolding is essentially the software you're running to access and manage the model and manage your context and manage the available tools.
Okay.
That's kind of like the sum of scaffolding is like, how can I set up a system that best lets me use this foundation model?
Yeah. I do like this idea, but I could see how it would further my Claude addiction at this point. And I'm making fun. Like, I'm not really addicted to Claude, but like what if you're out somewhere? And this goes back to kind of like what we were talking about before. You have to be able to, in your own head, rationalize or decide if that feature is appropriate. And if you're just sitting with your phone, trying to have a real life conversation, and I know human brains are like this, something just triggers that thought in your head and you can just on your phone immediately just say, hey, Claude, go work on this. It's cool, but I think it could also, end up with code that maybe if you gave it a bit of time to bounce around in your head, did you really need that feature? Right? Like you're never probably going to use it.
Yeah. Like, is this something that was worth building? I mean, I guess the cost of actually building that and experimenting is relatively low now if you have access to the model. Yeah. You can kick that off. This is more, for me, the interesting part of this is like kicking off research tasks maybe or scraping tasks, things like that. If I want to go and learn more about a topic, I might go and prompt. Maybe you could prompt it to like look at recent academic papers that came out on the subject, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Summarize those. So.
Yeah.
But the code thing is interesting because you're going to end up with a lot of bloatware It feels like if you do that.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're just thinking off the top of your head and you're having a conversation, it just triggers that thought and you just, fire it into your code channel and, see what happens by the time you get home. I do think it's interesting. I think it's like everything. You just have to figure out the right way to use it.
Yeah.
Agreed. And I think we have time because it's not actually available yet. It's a private beta. So we can let other people figure it out. All right.
Perfect.
What else do we have? Yeah. What else do we have here? We talked about Sora already. Oh, you had shared a DeepSeek Engram article. Walk us through that one.
Yeah. So this is kind of related, but it kind of goes to show you DeepSeek just keeps releasing these incredible research papers on how to train LLM models better, right? So essentially how this works is when you're doing a training run, you can essentially memoize or cache a set of information for reference, right? So you could go back and look up. Essentially, if you staple a lookup table to the training run, to the model, you can get a performance increase of a couple percentage points across the board. So there's an efficiency gain to be had just by adding easier to look up information in the training process or known good runs. So that struck me as that's not the most complicated thing to think about, right? In terms of architecture for doing this kind of training. What if we just memorize things? So it's how much more is there to discover in that space, right? There's got to be a lot more there to mine to get out. So we're just at the start, it feels like. Yeah. So
yeah. I thought it was, and it's pretty, it's not very large either. I read somewhere how many, it's was it 20 plus billion parameters or something? Which when you think about it, it's not huge compared to some of the other models we've talked about, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think go ahead.
I was going to say, it's the article that Dr. Bauer shared with us last week, that smaller model. We're going to see these smaller, more capable models on mobile devices, right? Or smaller dedicated chips. So
yeah, pretty neat. Pretty neat. Which is a great segue into the other article you shared about Mamba 3. So why don't you walk us through that one?
Yes. Yeah, Mamba 3. So this is the article that Dr. Bauer shared with us last week on the show. Let me just pull that up here. But it is essentially not in my research notes. No, that's a reliability issue. Essentially, it's a smaller efficient model that you can run on cheaper compute, right? So I think if I'm remembering right, you get, if you have more complex state representations, you can improve. It's totally CDD.
Yeah,
I think it was there's a linear state space improvement model.
Okay.
There.
Yeah, I wrote down that it's smaller again. It's only 1.5 billion parameters. And it's, I think, much smaller than the previous model, Mamba 2, but it provides you with, I don't know, again, a better, more accurate results, even though the model is smaller than the previous implementation. But yeah, I think it speaks directly to what we were talking about last week. These ideas of small, what do they call them? SLMs, small language models.
Small language models.
Yeah. And to your point, if you get them down to a certain size, where could you run these things? I don't know if Mamba 3 or Mamba 2 is available that you could run an OLAM or anything like that. But we've joked often about, running local models for things. And if you tried to put, a 30 billion parameter model on your laptop, it might work, but it's going to be slow, right? It's going to chew up a lot of memory versus a 1.5 billion model, right?
Yeah.
Much smaller.
This is for edge compute use cases, right? Yeah. So if you have edge server you want to run some language model on. I mean, I guess it's Mamba 3 must be a transformer, right? I would imagine.
Yeah. The notes you're more of the model guy than I am. I have a hard time. My brain doesn't compute all the details of these things. I generally am like, can I use it, and what could I use it for? I mean, actually, though, one interesting thing talking about last week, the concept that got really stuck in my head was embedding models in LLMs, so that like. Sorry, I'm saying that wrong. Embedding an LLM, in your MCP, so that when a tool is invoked by something, then the LLM looks at it and says, "Is this appropriate use for this tool?" I put that as an issue in OpenBrain because I can't figure out a real life use case on why in my particular situation I would need something like that. But the whole idea of it, I'm just like, oh man, that's really an interesting idea, that when you invoke an MCP, there's an LLM layered inside of that that's looking at those requests and deciding if it's appropriate or not. I'm going to figure it out somehow to use it for something. It'll be completely unrequired. It won't be really useful for what I'm doing, but I just, the idea of it, I can't, it's been bouncing around in my head for like a week, right?
It's a harness safety thing, right? Like, it makes total sense to have like a little watchdog in there that's isolated, maybe, hopefully, from like the actual main input. So if you have bad prompts coming in, this is another use case, like if you have a prompt injection attack, do you have something there that's watching and flagging that? So that makes total sense.
Yeah.
For that use case. I'm just going back and I'm reading the actual article for
I'm buying you some time talking about LLMs.
I totally forgot about this, but it's actually really cool. It's like a new transformer architecture that you don't need to pay full attention to every token. You can actually select within state space, and you don't actually have to hold on to everything as you're training. You can discard things and recompute.
Okay.
Which is cheap. Can be cheaper when you're running in large parallel training jobs, right?
Yeah, it's very cool. You made me think too, like, about when I went back to that MCP idea. Maybe if you're using Bedrock already, you don't need maybe a massive, you don't want Opus looking at those requests. Maybe that's where you could use one of those smaller, cheaper models like Minimax or something like that to evaluate the actual, what is the tool, like what is actually being requested through this MCP call.
Well, even you could fine tune something, right? Like, is there like a small model that you could fine tune to look for, fine tuned against like a data set of known jailbreaks, maybe would be a good thing to check out. Like, is this thing trying to pretend to be my grandma or something?
Yeah.
That kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Are the prompts actually within the error bars of what we're expecting for the application, right? So that's
pretty cool.
You would want to like this.
Pretty cool. Okay, two more things. The first is the Mythical Agent-Month, and it added to my reading list because it's either a book or something. The author's last name is Brooks, and they wrote about the Mythical Man Month. And the idea here is, this is a riff on that concept. So what they're saying is that agents are really great at dealing with easy stuff, boilerplate stuff, tests, things like that. But they will often make more difficult stuff more challenging over time. And what they're saying is, it's still up to you to deal with that hard stuff, like the design, the scoping, knowing what we talked about earlier on, what not to build. Like, just because you have that thought doesn't mean you should build it, right? And this kind of stuff is still on us as the human. And what happens is the agents can generate so much code so quickly that scope creep becomes, potentially catastrophic, because you get bloatware, like you were talking about before, and it really starts to struggle as your code base gets larger and larger, because the complexity of it increases, right? And I wrote down here in from the article this idea of just the agents will actually start chasing their tails on very large code bases because the complexity is well, challenging, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's a context issue, context window issue, right? It's been a big problem for these large repos. And it's like, how do you search through this huge volume of code and relate, different parts of a project to the part that you actually care about and want to work on?
Yeah.
And how do you maintain a huge project without it, just bulking out over time? Because if you ever want to see anything like this, just ask it to write tests and set your code or your coverage requirement to 100%.
Okay, so I'm going to make a little comment. Remember how I was talking about, I used Claude for OpenBrain, and I was going to try Kiro for the Kanban board?
Yeah.
I got to tell you, man, like I am not kidding you, more than 400 tests that Kiro created. 400.
For what?
Yeah, exactly. I'm now working with Claude to try to unravel some of that stuff because it's, I don't know, man. Like it's so over-engineered for what I'm trying to do. That's what you just mentioned is spot on. And the other thing that I wrote down about this article was it's still important for us as the humans to be the ones that are saying no. Like we do not need that feature. And I've caught myself with these little personal projects, we're back and forth with Claude on something and it's like, you should build this. And I'm like, ooh, shiny, cool. And then I'm like, wait a second, like for a personal project, I'm going to be really, in theory, the only user of this thing ever. I don't need that, right? Like let's stay on target here and focus on what it is we're trying to build. And this article reminded me of something we talked about, maybe 3-4 weeks ago. Remember the article, I think it was Simon Willison, where shipping crappy code is a choice and that it's up to you still to basically be the guardrails for those projects. This article really made me think about those topics we've been discussing over the last, for a long time now, probably months.
Yeah. Just because code is cheap doesn't mean you have to ship it, right? Like,
yeah. Doesn't mean you need to build it, right? Just leave it in the backlog. Just leave it there. Avoid eye contact. Yeah. And then the last one was a really cool article about how a person is essentially, I don't want to call it a framework, but how they are approaching all of their development projects. And they talk about how they use Claude MD files. They use a work log file in every project that allows them to basically keep session information across, keep project information would be a better way to say it. Keep project information over multiple sessions. And I know many of these agents now have memory systems in them, but this person's approach was to get it out of that memory system and store it in a markdown file. And I was kind of thinking as I read this, I'm like, hey, this is kind of what I've done. It's just not a markdown file. It's
pretty much,
it's a vector store in Postgres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly it, right? Like there's a lot, there's so many ways to do this, it seems like, and we're not really converging on one way at the moment. But I think Claude Code does it through, I could be wrong, do they do it through Markdown as well? They have Claude MD at least.
Yeah, they have Claude MD. And it does write memory, but to be honest, I've never actually, it writes memory to the file system, like the project file system, but I've never actually gone in there and looked at it, to be honest. So I don't know. It's Markdown or something else. I don't know.
Yeah, I know OpenCode has a SQLite database that they use for project, for sessions. Yeah. So any kind of data store, any kind of way of storing this data that's easy to query and read seems to be a good fit for this kind of thing. Yeah. And they're really good, the agents, at writing code. So if you can have it just write code to access a database really quickly to check like the queries for the project history, that works almost as well as reading or maybe better than reading a MD file. Yeah.
The other thing that struck me with this is it's amazing. I love how people are all coming up with their own solutions to the same problems. And it's interesting to see how people are building things that make sense for how they want to work.
Yeah.
it's personalized software.
Yeah.
Right.
It is.
I'm going to sound
you build your own stuff.
I'm listening to myself. I'm like, God, I just keep saying the same thing over and over, but you're building tools that make sense for you. They may never see the light of day, right? Nobody will ever use them except you. And this article, again, made me think of that. They're really basically building the infrastructure that they need to help them be more effective around the tools that they've chosen to use, whether it's something simple like even a dot file or Claude MD files or Agent MD files, depending on the tools that you're using, and then standardizing that layout on every project that they go through. They use that same, I'm going to use a framework because I think it is a framework. It might not be a super advanced framework that covers every edge case known to man, but it covers the situations that these developers are finding themselves in a regular basis. And they've built a framework or a scaffold around it to help them be more effective. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. It's like you're building your own tools at this point, right? And I mean, that's something that software developers have always done, but it's going to be really cool to see how organizations handle this kind of thing. Like, how do you get the organization, like the tribal tools almost that you're building in your org, and pass them on and keep those available for future onboarded employees, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of it that way because I've just been a consultant for so long. I hadn't thought of how those tools how you would keep those tools inside an enterprise, a large organization, because you don't want them leaving when the people or person who's developed them leaves, right? You want them to stay within the organization because there's value there. Yeah, interesting. Well, that's all I have. Do you want to wrap us up with any last thoughts or recommendations for the week?
I do have one last little AI thing, and then we can do Rex.
Okay, fire away.
So just a quick state of the models here. What's going on in the wide world of LLMs. So we saw a couple of really cool releases recently, and that was with the Minimax M2.7 and Mimo V2 Pro. And we're kind of hitting the sweet spot now on price to performance, where these models are about as good as Opus 4.6 or Sonnet, kind of in that range, in terms of capability. And they're a fraction of the price. So for most jobs, unless you're locked into Claude Code, you should probably be using something like that. Looks like if you're doing one-shot multimodal tasks, Gemini Flash is the best right now. It's just so good at working with images and documents. So that's what I'm using there. And the state-of-the-art best model, I'm using GPT 5.4 for pretty much everything. Yeah. Unless I'm in Claude Code, and then I'm using the Opus models, of course. So that's where I'm at.
Wow. Yeah.
With the models.
I will admit that I've been laser focused on Claude over the last 2-3 weeks, maybe. I think I've finally figured it out enough, but then I'm using other things, Gemini, to basically evaluate the project. I'm using Codex. Oh yes. Codex 5. I think I'm using 5.3 in the Codex app still. I don't know if 5.4 is available in there yet or not. And I'm using that to, again, basically do repo scans and stuff. And then I keep going back to Hero. Hero, to me, I hate to say it, it's really fantastic at answering specific questions in AWS. I have not been able to figure out how to get it to write solutions like I've been able to write in Claude. I can't figure it out. Yeah, it's so I think I do. It's been on my to-do list. I think I need to try some of the other models like Minimax and stuff like that. Figure out how I can work them into some of the things that I'm working on. But I'm heads down on Claude now. It's something else, man.
Yeah, I love to hate on Anthropic, but Claude Code is really good right now.
Yeah, it's really good. All right, wrap us up with recommendations. What do you got?
Okay. So we did end up going to see Project Hail Mary. Yes.
Okay.
And it was awesome.
Yeah. I was waiting and I was hoping you were going to say, oh, we didn't go, because I'm like, I'm like, I think next week I got to go see it. Did you see it in IMAX or just regular theater?
We went to see it in Ultra AVX, which
Ultra
I don't know if
AVX?
that's an IMAX brand or what the deal is, but
I don't know.
it was very pretty.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually thinking of venturing into Big Bad Mississauga, right?
Oh my.
I know, right? Oh, the horrors. To actually see it in IMAX. There's a Cineplex there. Is it like 403 area? I think.
Yep.
403 Winston
I know the one.
Churchill. That shows it. They're advertising IMAX. The one here that's a little closer to me, I think it's the same thing. Ultra AVX or something like
AVX,
that.
yeah.
So it's recommended to go and watch.
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend it. It was a great story. Reluctant hero meets alien. So
Yeah.
it was good.
Yeah, yeah. The book was fantastic. If you're looking for a book to read, now that you've seen the movie, it's worth a read. I'd be interested to see your take if you did read the book on the differences between the book and the movie. I think I say I'll have to talk the wife into it, but it's probably the other way around. So maybe one night next week, we'll go and see it. I think it's worth it. The movie. Thanks. Cool. My recommendation this week is a carryover from last week. I've been really enjoying that Gene Kim, Steve Yegi book, Vibe Coding.
Okay.
It is really, really good. I'm about maybe halfway through because I'm only reading sort of very late at night instead of just sort of, as I end my day. So I'm only getting short little stints of reading time because I'm too tired by the time I get to it. But it's a really good book. I think it lines up really well with sort of the state of IT right now and sort of how they think about it. And I really do think I need to figure out, I don't need to use this tool, but I think I need to poke at it a little bit. Gastown. Try to figure out again a project just to say, okay, you're going to manage this project. I want to see, the mayor and, the polecats and all the different sort of concepts that he's worked into it. It's just making me think about that more and more, not necessarily because of the book, but just because of one of the authors of the book. And we had talked about Gastown a couple of weeks ago or whatever. Right. Those are my recommendations for the week.
Kind of the ultimate scaffold. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I was looking at that book. I had my finger poised over like the buy button on Amazon.
Yeah.
So I'll go pick it up.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. And just because of the spaces that we're in, I think it makes a lot of sense to read it. Right. I recommended it now twice to the class that I'm teaching right now. I'm like, you could read this book. It's very cool. So, all right, man. Well, there's another episode in the books. Enjoy your Wednesday, and we'll be back next Wednesday with episode 40, I guess. So, now I forget. Did I say it was episode? I think it's episode 39 today. I think it's 39.
I want to say you said 39, but I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, I think I did. Here's one last thing. This is another piece of personal software I'm thinking of writing. I can't wrap my head around paying what I pay for a SaaS tool that essentially publishes an RSS feed.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right? So
yeah,
it might be something I add to my to-do list to keep me up later at night, because that's always a good idea. Awesome. All right, man. Enjoy your Wednesday.
5 a.m. project.
Yeah, another 5 a.m. project. Yeah. We'll see everybody next week. Bye for now.